God is gonna see you through. God is gonna see you through. Through the flood, through the fire, through your storms and through your trials, God is gonna see you through.
Good afternoon. How are you doing today? Yeah, I'm excited about today because it's the day the Lord has made and we're going to rejoice in it. And no matter what circumstances or situations that are in our life, God is going to see us through. We're going to be talking today about knowing that debt, being in debt. I'm going to get right into it. Knowing that being in debt is a spirit. Now, if you have your Bibles close to you, I'd like you to turn to the 6th chapter of the book of Matthew, looking at the 19th verse. Now, I want you to know what the theme of today is that know that being in debt is a spirit. We know that there are things that influence us, and so we also know that different circumstances and situations, it's a spiritual situation. And believe it or not, finances are the same way, because God does not want you in debt. Write that on your walls, put it in your bathroom, put it beside your bed, or whatever the case may be. God doesn't want me in debt. So anyway, let's look at chapter 6, looking at verse 19. And it says, "Do not store up for yourself treasures on earth, where moth and rust will destroy, where thieves will break in and steal, but store up for yourself treasures in heaven." See, that's the sole purpose. We want to store up our treasures in heaven. But it still means that we keep a good testimony while we are here on earth. And one of the greatest testimonies is you're not in debt. So store up those treasures in heaven, where there neither moth nor rust, or where thieves can break in or steal. For where your treasure is, there is where your heart is. Now, what is your treasure? Your treasure is your pocketbook. Your treasure is the money that you go out and you make every single week, or you may get paid on a weekly basis, you may get paid on a semi-monthly basis, you may get paid every 2 weeks. Whatever the case may be, that's your treasure. So whatever you do with your money and however you are influenced with your money makes a difference. It absolutely makes a difference, and that's where it's saying is that where your treasure is, there's where your heart is. You see, a lot of people have their heart towards money. That's it. They think that money is the answer. Now, money itself isn't. What that money can purchase, or what that money can buy, or what bills that money can make will make the difference. But even though we make the money, we have the treasure in our hands, doesn't necessarily mean that we appropriate it right, or we make the right choices where we're going to put the money. And that's why I say that people that get into debt, it's a spirit. It's a spirit that influences them, and it meets their fleshly needs. A lot of times, I want to go out and buy a new car. I want to go out and for instance, like we're living in today, I want to go buy a new bicycle, because bicycles are the big thing right now. So where our treasure is, that's where our heart is. See, the eye of the lamp of the body. So then if your eye is clear, your whole body or your whole mind will be full of light. But if your eye is bad and your whole body will be full of darkness, if that the light that is in you is darkness, how great is the darkness? So no one can serve 2 masters. And this is a point. For either he will hate the one and love the other, or he will be devoted to one and despise the other. You cannot serve God and wealth. Now, let me explain exactly what I'm saying here. Does that mean that if I have money in the bank and I have savings and things like that, that I'm not going to be pleasing God? No, to the contrary, because God says, you've made some right choices. In other words, don't spend everything that you have. Always put a certain amount of money that you've made or your treasure, put it in a treasure box or putting it in a savings account. So whatever you do, always think about the future. We've talked about thinking about the rainy day, and you and I both know that rainy days come. And we know that it's going to happen. It's going to happen down the line because we don't know what's going to break down on us. We don't know the circumstances and situations. Right now, look at the unemployment. The unemployment is going on, and we're looking at about 36 million people in these United States right now are unemployed. A lot of them are seeking unemployment through their state, but they can't get it because it's such an overwhelming amount in every state that they're seeking this money. Some people are getting unemployment. Some people haven't received it yet. There's some people that need it. That's why it's so important that you're connected to a church, because a church that loves you and a church that you're devoted to, they will be there to help you in every way that they possibly can. So it's important to be connected. But anyway, I want you to know that debt is a spirit. And if you are deep in debt, you have probably come under the spirit of being in debt. And you say, my goodness, why didn't I recognize this? Because a lot of times what we don't recognize, that spirit that leads us into doing different things, we don't realize it's the enemy trying to bring us down, trying to destroy us, and trying to keep us poor. See, God wants you to prosper, and the devil wants to keep you poor. That's just where it is right now. And if he can do it by influencing you in certain areas, he'll do it. And so that's why I'm saying that being in debt is a spirit. So if you're deep in debt, understand you've come under that spirit of debt. Now it's time to break it. Now it's time to get away from it. As a matter of fact, sometimes being in debt can be a generational curse. And that generational curse is in our life because maybe that's all we've ever seen. You know, if you're raised in a family where a family is always struggling, always in debt, the family is talking about it, it's just the way it is, little children look at it as a way of life. They just figured that just because mom and dad is, one day they'll always be in debt. But that's not true. That's a generational curse. You can break that generational curse. Some people have been raised in a family where there's alcoholics. Does that mean that you have to be an alcoholic? Absolutely not. You can break that generational curse. Some people are raised where drugs is so important in that family. Believe it or not, that's a generational curse. It can be broken also. All generational curses can be broken by waking up, recognizing that being in debt is a spirit, and now you're going to break it and make some good choices and change the choices in your life and go on to do the things that will break that generational curse, and you will go on, succeed, and be prosperous in life. So, now, I want to talk a little bit about couples early in their marriage. If they have not been trained, and you see, parents, grandparents, if parents don't do it, train those children and train those grandchildren to how to handle money. If you don't train them while they're early and they go out into life, graduate from high school, get their first job, they will have no understanding whatsoever as to exactly how to handle that money, because what they'll do is they'll just begin to go out and spend it, and before you know it, what's going to happen is it's going to come a time they're going to get married, and neither one of them possibly have been trained on how to handle money. So, as I said, when we do counseling here, to me, that's an important aspect of a married couple's life, is learning how to handle their finances. They may make decisions on how they're going to do it, whether she's got to have her money, he's got to have his money, they're going to have a general fund, whatever the case may be. But the main thing is understand, don't get into debt. And so couples early on in their marriage, if they've not been trained, will be slowly nudging in to credit cards or credit purchases. And before you know it, they've run up bills of $6,000, $7,000, $8,000 on credit cards and still have nothing to show for that money whatsoever. They have nothing to show for that money. So little by little, if not controlled, you'll get locked into a lifestyle of debt, like it's always going to be there. Don't have that mentality. Break that generational curse that I don't always have to be in debt. Some kids were raised with thinking, Mom and Dad was always in debt, that means I'm going to always be in debt. No, that's not true at all. I honestly feel that generational curse can be broken simply by you making wise and making smart decisions. So just know that the spirit of debt has control with credit cards. That spirit is controlling time payments, because some people prefer that way of purchasing. And so under those circumstances, they will always stay in debt. And know that the debt is a spirit. See, folks who are under the control of the spirit of debt are no longer just nudged, but they have become driven and go even deeper in debt. It then becomes not only the spirit of debt, but also it becomes a way of life. And that's the kind of indebtedness that we don't want to have. We don't want to have that kind of indebtedness. Now you say, well, I'm going to buy a house and I'm going to buy a car. All right, let me explain that to you. For instance, most people cannot go out and buy a house and pay cash for it. They can't do it. So normally they put a down payment and they make payments. All right, understand what I'm saying. As long as you're making the money and you know in the budget that you've made out that you can make a house payment, then that's okay because you're making the payments on that. But you don't go out and buy something that you know that you can't make those payments on. So that's basically what I'm talking about. Excuse me. This whole experience is really described as an overpowering compulsion to buy, with the idea that I'll repay whenever I get the chance. If I don't have the money now, forget it. You'll just have to wait. Without us being conscientious as to exactly how we're going to make these payments. So you see, you can break this generational curse. You can break the curse by making wise and strong decisions on what you're doing. So you have to make up your mind. You make up your mind that for me, I'm not going to be in debt anymore. I may be in debt now, but it doesn't mean I have to be that way for the rest of my life. I can begin to make choices on what I do buy. See, we have to be disciplined in our money, that we just don't buy everything that our eye sees and wants. God says that He will take care of all of our needs according to His riches and glory. And if there's anybody that's the richest, you might say Bill Gates is rich, or Warren Buffett's rich, or two or three other people that you might hear about all the time. That's nothing compared to the riches of God. So this is what we have to look at. We have to look at this is the direction I'm going to go in for my life. I'm not going to be in debt. So whatever it takes. I might even deprive myself right now of all these things that I want for a later date when I'm in the position to pay for those things. I've saved for them. I've watched after my money so that whenever I do decide to buy them, that I can enjoy the fruits of my labor and I can enjoy it. So know this, that being in debt is definitely a spirit. Break that spirit, break that generational curse. If you've been raised in the past that way, break that generational curse. Begin to move with discipline in your life, and then you're going to start setting specific goals. And that's what I want us to talk about right now. I want you and I to just look at setting specifically the goals that you want in your life. These are specific goals or achievements that you want. We all need to plan our life as best as we can. See, God watches over us. As a matter of fact, why don't we turn real fast? I want to give you this scripture. Let's turn to Proverbs chapter 16. Real fast. I call this the work proverb. Proverbs 16, looking at verse 1. Now listen to the word. The plan of the heart belongs to man. In other words, now let's put this in the realm of finances. The plan of the heart, or the goals I want to achieve in my finances. What is it? What is it I want? So the plan of the heart belongs to man. But the answer of the tongue is from the Lord. All the ways of a man are really clean in their own sight, but the Lord weighs the motive. What is it? Now, He's going to weigh the motive of the plans of your heart. Now, let's just look at it in the financial arena. The plans of your heart are that you want to achieve in your life certain goals in life. You want to achieve being able to give out of your abundance to someone else, because God has opened the door for abundance and prosperity to you. You've been able to learn enough to handle it right. Now you have an abundance, then that gives you provocation to go out and help somebody else, or help somebody else get started. So the plan of the heart belongs to man, but God looks at everything that we do. What is the motive behind what we do? So if the motive entails, third verse, committing your works to the Lord. Commit everything that you do to the Lord. Commit your works to the Lord. Commit your money to the Lord. Commit everything that you do. Commit your children. Commit your spouse. Commit everything to the Lord to come under His guidance and His leadership, so that so that God knows that He's number one in your life, and that He is absolutely going to lead and guide and direct you in the proper way. Now, this is what happens. if we do all of that, if we commit our works to the Lord, it says your plans will be established. Wow, look at that. Your plans will be established. God will establish your plans. Okay, now we have to get to the point. What is your plans? All right, what's your plans? So your plans are the specific goals that you want to achieve. Then what you do is evaluate some of these areas of your life so that you can begin to refine them. Refine, some of the thoughts and some of the things that you want to do. So this is the very first thing. Okay, I have specific goals in my life. As a matter of fact, when I started doing goals in my life, I was 13 years of age. When I started with goals in my life, I would set goals for what I'm going to do the next day, or I would set goals with what I was going to do in school. I would set goals with what I was going to do in the sports arena that I was involved in. So you see, you set goals every day. Every day you set goals for your life. And as you begin to grow in life and you mature in life, then some of the goals that you have are change a little bit. But it shouldn't change when it comes to finances. Be specific about your finances and stay steady. Understand that being in debt is a spirit, and it's not the right spirit. God doesn't want you in debt. He wants you to live an abundant life. He wants you to live a disciplined life, and he wants you to make the right choices in life. So this is the way to do it. Commit your works to God, and he will establish them. Commit your goals to God. He will establish those goals in your life. So what is the very first thing that I need to do in order to establish my goals? The very first thing I need to do is to pray for God to help you achieve those goals. That's the very first thing that you do. You ask God to help you to achieve those goals. Now, if you are sensitive to the Spirit of God speaking to you, whether he speaks to you through your spirit or whether he speaks to you audibly, either way, be sensitive to God and what he's speaking to you, because he will lead you. And sometimes goals that we set are maybe not always goals that God would be pleasing to God. So therefore, that's why it's important we commit our works to God. Okay? So, very first thing that you do is to pray for God to help you to achieve your goals. Now, if you do that and you're sensitive to the leading of the Spirit of God, then you're going to make the right choices. You're going to make the right, I could guarantee it. God will never send you down the primrose path. He will always send you down the path of righteousness and making those goals that will be righteous goals and not goals that are just for you. Okay? So pray to God to achieve your goals. Second is to pay off any past and current debts. That's the first thing. If you want to get out of debt, you have to begin somewhere. You can't just say, I'm in debt, I'm in debt, I'm in debt. I want to be out of debt, I want to be out of debt, I want to be out of debt. You can't just say those kind of things. You've got to put yourself into action. And how do you do those actions? All right, you have to set a plan. Now, you have to set a tiny goal, and that goal is to pay off past and pay off current debts. Now, I'm going to give you a how-to. The very first thing you do, if you are in debt, whatever the debt is, if it's a finance company, it's a credit card, whatever the case may be, the debt that you owe that is the least, you start moving forward to pay that particular debt off. Well, why would you do that? Why don't you just spread the wealth around? No, because once you get one debt completely out of your hair and over and done with, there's something that it does to you emotionally. And it makes you feel, I have achieved getting rid of this one debt. So this is how you get out of debt, is you take the smallest debt, pay it off, the next smallest debt, pay it off, and so on down the line until you are completely out of debt. Well, how can you do that, and how can you still pay your regular amount that you owe on your house payment or your electric bill or your telephone bill, whatever? That's where your budget comes in. There may be things that you are used to doing you could stop doing. If you're used to eating lunch out every single day, stop it and take a brown bag with you. All right? Take a sandwich with you. Take leftovers with you. And you can totally stop that. You add that up. If you just spend $5 a day, just $5 a day, that's $25 a week or $100 a month that can go towards paying off that indebtedness. And that takes discipline. That takes self-denial. But if you expect to get out of indebtedness, you're going to absolutely have to have some self-denial. And that means I don't get everything I want when I want it. Quit going down to Starbucks and get the Hockey Mocky Rocky or whatever they call that thing, and it costs you $5 or $6. Put that money towards paying off of that debt. Then, when you pay your debts off, you can go back to Starbucks and get the Mocky Rocky Wacky or whatever it is. See, you can do that then. But don't do it now. Set your mind, I am going to get out of debt. I am not going to move in the direction I've gone in. I know it's a spirit. I'm going to break that spirit in my life, and I'm going to move forward. I'm going to get out of debt so that I'm not worried about owing somebody some money. So, first of all, what you do is you ask God to help you to achieve your goals. Second thing you do is you begin to pay off past and current debts. Number 3, be frugal in the present. Be frugal in the present. That means for right now, what you're going to do is that you're going to cut that budget to the bare bone. You're going to make sure that there are certain monies that you've been spending frivolously. You're going to now take that money, add it up, and pay it on the debt. You will be shocked and you will be absolutely surprised as to exactly how fast you can pay that debt off. It's absolutely amazing. So be sure. Now remember, first pray for God to help you to achieve, pay off past and current debts, and be frugal in the present. Now let's talk a little bit in regards to saving for the future. A lot of times people don't really, they live in the present and they don't think about the future. I'm kind of sad to say sometimes young people think, it's the right now that really counts and nothing about the future. The future will take care of itself. Well, the future will go on, but the thing is this, you have to prepare monetarily for the future. You have to start thinking about, and maybe a lot of you out there have retirement plans. You may have some IRAs or something or 503. You may have one of those things, or a 401k plan. So under those circumstances, that's good, because what you have done is that you have planned for the future. I'm sorry to say that a lot of times people thought that Social Security was going to be their retirement plan and it was all taken care of, but that's not really true. It may pay for a certain amount of your bills. It may pay for a certain amount of things that are going on. But let me say this, Social Security is not the answer. You have to think further than Social Security. So this is my suggestion to you. This is how I've handled it through the years, and that is to figure out exactly what your standard of living is. What is your standard of living right now? Maybe you have a home, you have your general utility bills, and, just the generalities of those things. But there's a certain amount of money that it takes for you and I to run our household. And if we want to maintain, after we retire, if we want to maintain our standard of living that we've been accustomed to all of these years, then what you have to do is begin to think about the future. I'm looking at the book today because I really feel that some of the things that I've placed in my book is very important and is very elementary, but if you read it, then you're going to find that it will give you valuable information. So, saving for the future. And how can I save for the future? I mentioned it. You can have a 401k plan, you can have IRAs, you can have a job investment plan. There's a lot of big companies that have that. And you can just begin to have a good old-fashioned savings account, because you need to save for the future. You need to save for things that will happen in the present and things that will happen in the future. And not only that, you go even further. You put money away that you never touch until that time comes that you retire and you're able to use that to live on. So saving for the future needs to be in your vocabulary if you're starting out. And a lot of times, unless it's taken out of your salary and put and invested into a retirement plan, a lot of times young couples don't do that because they're in the thick of it. What I call in the thick of it is they're raising their children. There's shoes that have to be purchased. There's pants. It always seems that the kids are growing out of their clothes and they're growing out of their shoes. I don't know what happens, but with my boys, their foot just seemed to grow and grow and grow. It was more like Pinocchio's nose. That's what it was. That was what their foot was like. So I understand all of that, and I understand the amount of money that we have to put out. But there's a lot of things that you can do. You can go to thrift stores. They have a lot of good things in thrift stores for children. They have a lot of good things in thrift stores for you. There's a lot of stuff that I personally have purchased. As a matter of fact, sometimes when Pastor and I go out on a date, we go out to dinner and then we wind up going to Goodwill. So that's a big date for us, and we thoroughly and completely enjoyed that. But that's our thing. We love going to thrift stores. I have found so many treasures, things that maybe I could fix up and give to somebody as a gift, knowing that it's really something that they would like, not just something that I picked up from a thrift store. So you see, there's a lot of things. There's the Salvation Army, there's the Goodwill, there's a lot of independent thrift stores. So there's ways of saving money and still doing what you have to do. So saving for the future is extremely important. And the next thing we do is have a plan of action to achieve your goals. In other words, set in your mind, this is what I'm going to do, whether it's 1, 2, 3, A, B, C, whatever it is. Set a goal, take action and set a goal, and to achieve those goals, whatever it is, let's work on achieving the goals that you set for yourself. Don't set those goals too high. Really look at goals and set them within what you're able to accomplish. Then you can raise your goal a little bit higher. You can raise the bar a little bit higher after that. But don't set for yourself unreasonable goals, and then somewhere along the line you say, I failed. God's not into failure. Now, God is saying, do things in a systematic way. Start out little and work until you can get into a larger goals that you want to. But set some sort of goals. I think I shared with you in one of the programs before, when I was 13 years of age was when I started setting goals for my life. I made the decision there that I was going to do this the next day, or I was going to do that the next day. And so I began to set small goals. Small goals. When I wake up in the morning, I'm going to do such and such. And so you set small goals, then you set larger goals and larger goals, depending on your age, depending on your accomplishments, what you're doing. You can set your goals and set your goals where they are achievable. Because what it does to you internally, what it does to your spirit and your feeling of accomplishment. That's why I'm saying don't set your goals too high initially. Initially. I'm not saying don't set your goals high. What I'm saying is initially, and take it step by step by step until you get to the point where you have achieved that ultimate goal that you want to achieve. You know, when a young person gets out of high school, some of them know what they want to do, some of them have no idea what they want to do. So they figure, well, I think I'll go to college, and maybe in the first or second year of college, I'll figure out what I want to do for the rest of my life. And they do that. And so they have set that goal at least in their life. So those are the kind of things that you really have to do in order to achieve what you want to do in life. So, how am I going to achieve those goals? Maybe a young person has a goal to be a doctor. That's a big achievement. You know, they don't go from going to their bachelor's immediately into their doctorate. They have to have travel down the pathway by finishing off their bachelor's, going into their master's. Then they can go into their residency. So it takes about 16 years to really become a doctor. And most doctors, if they travel down the path from 18 to 32, they can achieve being a doctor, but it's a long time. But maybe you don't want to be a doctor, maybe you want to be a plumber. So if you want to be a plumber, you may go to trade school for 1 year or 2 years, finish that up, and immediately go into the profession that you wanted to be. You wanted to be a plumber. So you see, but you set your goals, and then you little by little achieve those goals. Now, the next one, write it down. Cut up your credit cards, except for one. Now remember, what we're doing is that we are setting specific goals for our life. First thing that we do, remember, I'll go back and reiterate it. First thing we do is pray for God to help you achieve your goal. Second is to pay off past and current debts. Third is to be frugal in the present. Fourth, save for your future. 5, plan an action to achieve your goals. Now, number 6 is to cut up your credit cards except for one. Well, I don't know whether I can do that or not. Yes, you can. You can cut them up. Even though you may owe money on those credit cards, you can cut those credit cards up, pay the credit cards off as the bills come in, but don't use them again except for one. Now, let's explore that a little bit more. I've met people that have credit cards and it looks like a photograph thing. They just, So, what you have to do, really and truly, in order to achieve your goal and get out of debt, that's the key. I want to get out of debt. I don't want to have debt in my life. I don't want debt to control my life. I don't want money to control my life. So what can I do? Set goals. We know that. But these are one of the ways of setting your goals. Set your goal that you're going to cut up all your credit cards except for one. Reason I say that for one and not cut all of them up is that whenever you do go and apply for credit or you do want to purchase something, a lot of times people will say, do you have a credit card? Yes. Is your credit card in good standing? Yes. I pay my credit card off at the end of the month. Some people say, you do what? You pay your credit card off at the end of the month? How can you do that? Simply by not charging any more on that credit card in that month's time than I know I can afford. If I can't afford it, I don't buy it. And if you can begin to develop the mentality of, if I can't pay for it, I'm not going to buy it. Remember what I said early on. Don't you be a slave to the credit card. You let the credit card be a slave to you. Too many people in this world right now are slaves. Slaves to an little old credit card. And it's just ridiculous. Well, I've racked up all these bills. I understand you've racked up all the bills. And you pay your bills, because that's what a Christian is supposed to do, is to pay their bills. But you don't go back and you put more money on those credit cards and just stay constantly in debt. You'll never be out of debt until you reach the point of paying off those credit cards and just maintaining one. And the reason that you want to maintain one, besides that, is that you want that credit card to work for you. Now, what do I mean by the credit card working for you? It's this. You can get a credit card in which you can either get cash back, you can get points for merchandise, or you can get points for airlines. Now, in my case, my husband and I have chosen to get airlines because of the being in the ministry, because of maybe going to different places to fly to, so that it doesn't cost anybody anything other than the little taxes, excuse me, other than the little taxes that they charge. So let that credit card work for you. That's how the credit card works for you. You can either get cash back, you can get merchandise where you get rewards, or you can get points for airlines. You can get points for cruises. You can get points for hotels. There's so many things. So therefore, take whatever you're going to charge it all on one card. Make a decision, what kind of a card are you going to get? Am I going to get a card that's going to give me cash back? Am I going to get a card that's going to give me rewards back to buy merchandise? Or am I going to get one back that will, give me points for the airline? Or am I going to give one back that will give me points for a hotel? So there's so many different aspects, and all of that is free, absolutely free. But on the other hand, you do not put any more on that credit card than you know that you can afford, pay it off at the end of the month, and you will never, ever pay interest. Basically, what you're doing is that you're traveling for 30 days. 30 days, they are loaning you money. Now, really stop and think about this. For 30 days, they are loaning you money that you don't have to put out there. At the end of the 30 days, you will pay what you owe, but there's no interest. No interest whatsoever. So this is being smart about credit cards. Be smart about your money. And whenever you reach the age of maturity, that you make a decision that you're going to retire, you're not going to have to worry about money. You're not going to have to care. You can go, have yourself a good time, pay your bills, enjoy life, but it's going to take some discipline as you're younger to be able, whenever you reach that mature age of retirement, whatever that is. Some people are retiring now because they've been frugal with their money. They're retiring at 55 years of age. I mean, you're in the prime of life at 55. If you look in the book of Genesis, in chapter 6, God guarantees you 120 years. So look at all the fun you can have for the next years. Simply because when you were younger, what you did is that you were frugal, you watched your money, you were careful about what you bought, you made sure that you knew exactly what you were doing, and I'm going to give you some other tips on even how to save even a greater amount of money during different seasons of the year. So cut up the credit cards, be sure that you pay them off, and when they're paid off, that's the end of them. Just maintain the one credit card. Don't put any more on that credit card than you can afford to pay at the end of the month. Now, the next one that I have is use your credit sparingly and wisely. And I think we really hit on that point as far as your credit card is concerned. Use your credit sparingly and wisely. So and basically what that is saying, don't overextend yourself. It's so easy to pull out that little card and buy something on the spur of the moment that in 2 weeks you'll forget about it. So, use your credit sparingly and wisely in what you're doing. The next one is stop compulsive buying. Wow. Now, what is the reason for compulsive buying? There's several reasons for compulsive buying. Number one, when people get emotionally sad, they'll go out and buy something because that makes them feel good momentarily. So they go out and spend money whenever they're emotionally upset about something. Maybe they've disappointed, so they'll go and spend money, and they'll go and put it on a credit card and run up a lot of debt. That's called compulsive buying. Or all of a sudden you see this great big ad either in the newspaper or you see it on television. 50% off today. 50% off, no, for the weekend. 50% off for the weekend. So rush down and get whatever it is, whether it's furniture or whether it's food even, So there is that compulsion inside of you. My goodness, 50% off. This is the time to get it. Well, all they did is generally they jack up the prices and you're back to almost normal of whatever what it was originally. But that's called compulsive buying. Or the other situation is that they make things so eye-appealing that a person that has compulsive buying, that remember, being in debt is a spirit, and compulsive buying is a spirit, and it's a spirit to make you feel good. That's exactly what it is. It's a spirit to make you feel good inside of you. So stop that compulsive buying. All right. Listen to this one now. Shop smart, buy smart, and be bold. All right. Now, shop smart, buy smart, and be bold. Well, what is being bold have to do with buying smart? For instance, if you're in a situation where you want to purchase something and it's a negotiable item, that's what I'm talking about, a negotiable item. Don't just accept. For instance, if you go to the flea market and you see something that you want, immediately start trying to negotiate that price, whatever that price is. I don't care. Whatever it is, be bold about negotiating that price. So, whenever a person says maybe they put $10 on something, offer them $8. See what they say. See, remember what the Bible says. We have not because we ask not. So the same thing goes with saving money, being smart about your money. Shop smart. Look for the better deals. Look for those things that are a good price. And there's certain places that you can go to if you do comparative shopping, or we'll call it shopping smart and buying smart. There's different grocery stores. I'm not going to name the grocery stores because I don't think I should. But there are certain grocery stores that are kind of high end, and they charge a pretty good price for produce or their canned goods or whatever. But there are other grocery stores that if you shop smart, you can go to and you can find that maybe the same item. Always remember, compare apples for apples when you're doing smart shopping. Well, what does that mean? In other words, take this one item. I'll give an example. Let's just say Libby's corn. You shop Libby's corn at one store. You go to another store and Libby's corn, the same thing, Libby's corn, you're going to find a difference of 20 to 25 cents a can difference. 20 to 25 cents a can difference. Now you say, well, what's 20 or 25 cents? I'm going to tell you what it is. You begin to add that money up, and you're going to save $2 or $3 or $4 on your groceries just by doing comparative shopping, just by doing smart shopping or buying smart. In other words, take a little bit of time. It's worth it. We live in such a rush world that we're living in. You go into a store, you just grab up something and go get to the checkout counter and check out, and probably paying much more for it than you should. So take your time when you're shopping. Don't be compulsive with your shopping. Take your time. Get your grocery ads. They come in the mail absolutely free. Take an evening, sit down, kind of plan your meals. I'm talking about food right now. Plan your meals, and then what you will do is you look into look at the paper, look at what's on sale, what's not on sale. I mean, I shopped one place. I was going to make a blueberry pie. I shopped one place. The blueberries were $2.99. $2.99 for a pint. That's not too bad. But when I did my comparative shopping, when I began to shop smart, you know what happened? I got the same identical blueberries at another store, 2 pints for $3. So for one more pint, I paid 1 penny. Makes a wonderful pie. So you see, that's what I'm talking about, doing smart shopping. Do your comparative shopping, look around, make sure that what you're buying it at a good price. One place I saw, celery was $1.29. That's not too bad. But you know what? I went and got it for 98 cents. I got it for 98 cents at another store. Perfectly good. So what I'm saying to you is shop smart, buy smart, and be bold about what you're doing. In other words, don't just go to one store and at that one store just buy everything. Because they may have a few things on sale, but they'll make it up on something else. So this is what I want you to do. I want you to get your grocery ads. I want you to make out a list, and you're going to be shocked as to exactly how much that you're going to save. So do comparative shopping. Now, that's the same thing that applies to clothes. There are certain stores that have certain name items. And with those name items, you can do the same kind of comparative shopping. In other words, you can still get quality stuff, quality clothing at a better price in some other stores. But it takes checking around and not just grabbing up the very first thing that you want to get a hold of just because you're in some big hurry. Don't be in a hurry, because what will happen is that you will not be able to save the money that you should be able to save. Next thing, evaluate your home and your living expenses at home. Now I'm going to kind of go over this one just quickly. Remember what I said, evaluate your home and your living expenses at home. That means evaluate your electric bill, evaluate your water bill, your telephone bill. Those are bills that you have control over. You have control over those bills. And what do you mean by you have control or I have control? What I'm saying is that your electric bill, you have control. Don't turn every light on in the house, leave it and just go off. When you leave a room, turn the lights off. Whenever you go into another room, the other thing too is using LED lights. Instead of incandescent lights, use LED lights. I converted my whole house, now listen to this, I converted the whole house to LED lights, and in 1 month it saved me $50 on my electric bill. That's a lot of money. Why? Because I changed the lights. Keeping your air conditioned at a certain temperature. In my house, I have a 2-story house, so therefore I keep the temperature up in the upstairs a little bit higher than I do downstairs, simply for the fact that everything goes up. And so the cool air will go up and up to the upstairs. So these are just some of the things. We'll talk a little bit more about setting our goals and achieving our goals and specific goals and little bitty tips that I'm going to share with you about how you can shop smart, buy smart, and be bold at what you do. And every single day. And not only that, begin as a woman, you kind of control that household, and you can begin to share with the rest of your family, hey, maybe taking those showers a little bit longer than they should and running out of hot water, that kind of stuff. So it's all of that that's basically involved with it. So now, I love y'all out there, and I really appreciate, some of the comments that I'm getting about the program, and I pray that I am teaching you a little bit to help you in regards to your finances. So next week, we're going to pick up again about the specific goals that we need to set. I'm going to kind of get even a little bit more into the nitty-gritty about how-tos on how to save the money. So I'll see you next week. God bless you. Join us for the service on Sunday at 10:45.
Oh, God.
And we will see you soon.
He's going to see you through somehow, some way. Oh, God. He's going to see you through.